Hey everybody, welcome back to season 3 of Mondays with Mindy. Hey Christian.
Hi, Mindy. Hi, everybody.
We're both very tickled that we have sponsors this season. So I want to give a shout out to one of my favorite hotels of all time. If you find yourself in upstate New York, the Woodstock Way Hotel. Just putting it out there. Anyway, today's episode features a conversation with actor, writer, stand-up, and musician Malcolm Barrett. Malcolm was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, studied at New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. Not bad. He immediately started working on several New York-based television shows, Law and Order and The Sopranos, as well as roles in the feature films Larry Crown, The Hurt Locker, Swim Fan, and Dear White People. Malcolm moved west to Los Angeles and continued to rack up the credits in both television and film, while simultaneously becoming an equity member and working his magic on stage. Malcolm is also talented in poetry, improvisation, and stand-up comedy. He was a founding member of the nonprofit theater company Real Theater Works in New York City, and is a founding member of the Ammunition Theater Company in Los Angeles, known as AMMO to those of us members. It produces original work and reimagined classics. In fact, Malcolm has been nominated and won many an Ovation Award with his affiliation with AMMO. In 2018, he was nominated for the original play Brain Problems, which he wrote and starred in under AMMO's banner. He and I actually met a couple years earlier, workshopping a musical together for the Center Theater Group here in Los Angeles, and we immediately fell in love with each other. He's truly a remarkable actor and performer. Musically, Malcolm is also known as Verbal, or Verbal the Rapper, or Verbal plus Icarus. And he's recorded numerous tracks, but his live shows are not to be believed. They're out of this world. From 2016 to 2018, Malcolm starred simultaneously in 2 series, both of which I watched that are amazing. NBC's Timeless as Rufus, and AMC's Preacher as the character Hoover. Most recently, he can be seen as Seth Reed in the series The Boys. And up next for Malcolm, I'm so excited for him. This is huge. He'll be co-starring with Cynthia Erivo in Genius Aretha, the limited series about the life and career of Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
It's set to debut on National Geographic early next year. Huge,
Wow.
Right?
Wow, it's huge.
He also himself has a podcast called Going Live with Malcolm. And I'm looking so forward to having a conversation with him today.
Me too. I mean, it doesn't sound like he has a lot of accomplishments, but maybe we'll find a few once we start talking to him.
Yeah, hopefully he'll redeem himself.
Yeah, a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to welcome to the show, Malcolm Barrett.
Hey.
Hello. Me so happy.
I'm so happy. I don't remember the last time I actually saw your beautiful face.
Oh gosh, too long. That's all I know. So anyway, here at Mondays with Mindy, we jump right in with just randomly asking you a few questions.
Little get to know you, little warm up.
Warmed up. We do a deep dive. It's just the way we roll. Yeah.
From the top.
Okay, Malcolm. What do you do when you're stuck creatively?
When I'm stuck creatively, I think there's 2 strategies to do something when you're stuck creatively, which is to just completely do something else, which sometimes works. Like you'll start try hitting things or reading something or blah, 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 so that your mind just starts thinking about other things. Because then all of a sudden, one of those things that happens over here suddenly feeds an idea that you were thinking about that you're just stuck in a rut about. And the others are just, just sit in a room and do the thing, right? Like whatever it is, you just go to the room. Like today I was supposed to write. And so I came into this office, right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. So I came into this office and sat at a laptop and sat there. And I wrote a word. But it got me in the mode for what it would be like if I started writing.
You have to put the seat in the pan. You got to put your seat in the chair, otherwise.
Memory.
Yeah.
It's muscle memory, even if that muscle's your brain.
Exactly. You start to go oh, okay, all right, this is how this works.
Okay. Did where you grew up or were raised,
Mhm.
Brooklyn, yes, help you define your or create your creative aesthetic?
100%. My my company, that's, you become your own business a lot of times when you're in the entertainment industry, is called Brooklyn Bound. Because I feel bound to Brooklyn in so many different ways. It affected how I am. It affected my sense of community. I did so many soup kitchens and church there. It's also where, I was broke a lot of my life, right? So like, by the time I got to doing theater in college, I knew how to make a play, how to direct, how to produce a play using absolutely nothing, because I knew how to do stuff with nothing. Do you know what I mean? So in a lot of ways, it affected the stories I told, because the plays that I immediately wanted to tell when I started making plays were talking head plays, plays where people were just literally, what motivated it was just people talking to each other and interacting with each other and
Mm-hmm.
characters.
Right.
So I think, in a lot of ways that don't seem obvious, it changed how I approach character, how I approach acting, and the stories that I want to tell because of that.
Well, not to be a tangential Trudy, but I am. Before we get to the next question, I just want to ask, you say that about, being poor and just starting out after college, et cetera, but you started to work in New York. And I'm
Yes.
just, I mean, you worked and on good stuff. And I'm just curious, what led you to move out to Los Angeles when you did?
So this is what happened. So I was in college, and like I said, I was working, but it was also one of those things where, in a lot of ways, I was in school on scholarship, and in a lot of ways I was paying for school with acting, because we were kind of struggling. So it was also one of those things where, I was almost making the decision between going to school and actually trying to act, because it looks consistent now, but
Right, looking back.
do you know what I mean? But when you're
Yeah,
when you're 19 and you're, heating your place with a stove, and you're going, hey, do I travel for 6 months to do this play, right, where I could possibly get paid, or do I do a Law and Order episode, but then they like want to throw me out of school or throw me out of class because I went and did Law and Order, and so
right.
now I'm failing school because I'm booking work, which is paying for school,
Yeah.
and none of it is as consistent as it looks right now. Do you know what I mean?
Got you.
Because,
Of course.
so it was a very weird, it was a very long conversation. I left school 3 times, and the very first time was in 1999 when I went on tour with Wit,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a long conversation, with my mother and with myself. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I remember smoking a cigarette, and I don't smoke cigarettes. Do you know? Do you know what I mean? Because
Right.
because I was trying to decide. I mean, I'm 18, 19 years old, deciding my future, because I don't
Right.
know that play's going to take me anywhere past that. Do you know what
That's
I
right.
mean? And up until then, my whole life is school, and my school life wasn't art; it was math and science.
Hmm.
It wasn't until college that that art became the thing where I said I'm going to do that. And even when
Yeah.
I did it, it felt very selfish. Do you know what I mean? Because it wasn't a stable job. Do you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
anything that I could count on getting me paid every Friday,
Right.
in any way, shape, or form. And around that time, once I got paid, I became the breadwinner of the family. Do you know what
Sure.
I mean? And so it's a very hard transition when you're not sure everything's going to line up the way they line up when it goes positively.
Listen, I'm 54. It still doesn't. Like this is the life, but the thing is, I'm a free agent. Like it's the life I've chosen, so I'm okay with it. But I
Yes.
still have to make everybody else okay with it at times, even 45 years later. But so I'm sorry, I cut you off. Tell me about your trajectory to LA then. What was the deciding factor? Money, opportunity?
Both of those things. By that time, I had an agent, Penny Ludke, and I think around that time I actually auditioned for pilot season, which again was looked down upon in my school. Do you know what I mean? They didn't want you in the acting program. They didn't want you going out to act, but it's how I was paying for anything. So that's what happened. And then what wound up happening is I auditioned for a show called Luis with Luis Guzman. And I got the part, and it took me to LA, and we bonded because he's from the Lower East Side, and I used to do poetry at the Niro. He used to perform there. John Leguizamo, House of Buggin', all of that stuff. And then so I moved to LA. Like, really what happened is I got the audition, I booked the gig, and then it was one of those things, how quickly these things happen, where it was like one of those things where I'm in LA to screen test, I'm hanging with my boy, and I'm like, hey, there's a possibility if I get this, I'll have to move here. Do you mind if I stay with you a couple, whatever the hell, blah, blah. And then I booked the gig, like literally I'm at a diner sitting with him, and I booked the gig, and I'm like, I think I'm moving in with you. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? This is what's happening. And so that became my life. And then it was one of those things of, that show wound up getting canceled. But it wound up being one of those things where you sort of kick the ball and wind up going wherever the ball goes. And so luckily it went in the right direction. And I'm still kicking.
Yes, you are.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. And Louis was great because Louis would call me at like 6-something in the morning and be like, bro, you want to get some eggs? And I'm like, yeah, man, sure. Okay.
It's so interesting that you say that, because a couple of my first experiences with people still resonate with me, how I move through my career or my world. And it's so fascinating to me that I hear that that's kind of, I look for that. I look for the same things that were given to me early on.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Of course, taking myself out of this question as a possible answer, who is the most fascinating person you've met?
Mindy Cohen, and then second to that,
yes, of course.
There's this. I'm sure there's like a really like famous name that like really pops that I can't think of right now. That's really fascinating to work with and meet. But one of the most fascinating individuals I know is a band member. We'd always compare him to Prince, and he's just one of those guys who's just he's the rock and roll guy, musician. He sings.
Wait, does he play with you when verbal to rap? Like, does he play with you?
He doesn't play with me. He played with my boy Brandon, who I performed with. But they had a group called Yellow Alex. His name is Alex Gideon. I feel like he'll be okay with me telling the story. And we all went on a retreat, a bunch of us, him, Brandon, Brittany Manor, a bunch of singer, musician folks, whatever. And so we were just trying to create stuff. And I don't know whose house it was, or if it's a mansion or whatever it is, but me and Brandon were going downstairs, and it's this beautiful place, the architecture, and it's got these glass walls, right? And through one of the glass walls is a bathroom. And so from the outside, you can see people using the bathroom. And so it was our boy Alex sitting on the toilet using the bathroom. And we turn around, and me and Brandon are shocked, but he isn't. And he's like totally cool. And I swear to you, he just goes, hey. And it was so cool. It like threw us off. Like we were just like, I don't.
Yes.
Do we stay? We're gonna walk.
This is someone
away.
who is so in his body, no matter what.
Just not
present and accounted for.
Yeah, there's nothing you could do. It was like, all right. I was like, why do I feel weird? And how'd he get cooler? I don't understand that. So he's one of the most fascinating people I've ever met.
I need to meet this individual. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Besides your mobile phone, what is something, Malcolm, you never leave home without?
I'd say my keys, but I like 50-50. I leave home without my keys. Something I never leave home without. Something to write on.
Huh.
I think for the most part, I've always got a piece of paper or something and a jot an idea. If it wasn't my phone, I'd be carrying my book bag with like my laptop or a book. There's always when I was in high school, I'd always carry a composition book in a little book bag. And then when I became a poet, and you don't carry composition books anymore, I'd carry a laptop in a laptop case. And then when I was just broke and my laptop broke, I'd carry a composition book in a laptop case.
Just to look like, I feel you. That's good.
It's a crafty one.
101.
Yeah, you got to think outside the box.
Yes.
Fake it till you make it.
Perpetrate that fraud. It's all right.
Yeah.
Make it a reality. What's your favorite place to travel to and why?
I actually don't go traveling enough, and everyone in my life complains about that. So I always feel like I'm I always feel like I have to work. I have to work all the time. All the time. It's probably too much. I mean, half the time I'm just sitting here playing video games and bullshitting, but the idea of a job is on the horizon right now. So I'm okay. Right. You know what I mean? But the only place I've gone to Jamaica and I like that. I've gone to Cancun and that was good until it went bad. So I'm gonna put Jamaica up there. I'm gonna put Jamaica.
What turned in Cancun? Is it?
Yeah. Whatever you think it is. Yeah. Whatever you think it is what happened.
I like it a lot.
Jotting notes.
So what's so crazy about Christian and I doing this Mondays with Mindy is he kind of came to me with this idea. The one thing that I was missing in the pandemic, because truth be told, I'm a loner. So this was March, April, May was not a true hardship for me when I knew we had fresh air, fresh water, and groceries.
Mm-hmm.
But I missed obviously talking to people, but especially creatives in my life. And I cannot believe we are in season 3 and it's still happening. I mean, it's so nuts. So I'm finding these conversations, I don't know about you, Christian, so much more necessary because I think I'm having a harder time now than I did in the beginning.
Yeah.
Of just not being able to create, be with other creatives. So how have you been doing?
What's funny enough is I feel like in some ways I started doing my podcasty show around the same time for the same reason. It was really to, it was happening. Started it after the lockdown. After lockdown started, I had no idea what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? But it was also dealing with Black Lives Matter, and so I didn't know what I was doing with that. And we're locked down in a pandemic, and so there's a lot of things pulling you and a lot of things telling you to stay home at the same time.
Right. Now let me interject here. Had you wrapped Aretha by then?
I personally had wrapped, but Aretha the TV show hadn't wrapped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I was done, or so I thought. ... Ellipses.
Okay.
The plot sickens.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah. And so they brought me back.
Got it.
You see, we all did it.
Yeah. I'm always with you.
So, yeah, you're there. And then so they brought me back, and so I had to do some reshoots when I came back, and then all of that sort of stuff. But so I was just kind of chilling, and then actually, found out I got work while I was in the pandemic. I was like, okay, whatever, give me some stuff. But so I started the cast, going live with Malcolm, I call it, to deal with all the that I was dealing with. And the first guest I had on the official version was Marquis Richardson, because I just knew me and him, who folks know from Dear White People, from Antebellum, because I just knew me and him could talk publicly and not give a and be very honest and have it be interesting and go anywhere. And that's kind of been the theme of the show, no matter who the guest is that we kind of just have it go anywhere, because that's kind of how I think everyone's feeling amidst all of this. It's like sometimes you feel really absurd and silly, and sometimes you just need somebody to ground you and say, like, this is really happening, right? Like, this is, we're all living in the same mad world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, same. I mean, we Christian and I both felt, we don't need to, have people talk about, what they're doing in the next project. Like, there's talk shows for that. I just miss connecting to like-minded, like-hearted, like-souled people. And let's do it and like just put it out there. So okay, so that's fair. That's really fair.
Yeah.
So my work that I booked pre-COVID, the film that I was on got, they decided just not to continue. And then I too booked something, and then it was like, we're going, we're not going, we're going, we're not going.
Yeah.
What's your situation? Are you going?
Well, no, this next thing we were going, and then now we're not going. So
same. Oh my, not to be rude. I wish I mean, since I met you, you should just not be working. But I gotta tell you, I thank God someone else, because I have been getting the bends.
Oh, I mean, literally,
rightfully so.
It was one of those things where it was a project I forgot about. Then they gave it to me, and I was like, great. And then it was like a hold. And then, and I can talk about this because I've put it on my tickety talk, which is that, you know what I mean? Yes. And well, so I'm not going to say the name of it, one, because I think it wasn't official, and two, the name we had was horrible. So, but
no need.
Yeah. So we got a COVID scare because I got a test and it said that I was positive. And literally I was like, holy, because I was like super safe, blah, blah. And it wound up being a false positive.
False positive.
And so we had shut down and done all the things, and it was fake. And then we had come back, or we were ready to come back. Or it wasn't fake. It was a false positive. And so I got retested twice after that, and everybody got retested, and we were all negative. And then it was like we were ready to come back, and then it stopped again. And that's what's been happening with a couple folks. It's been, folks are trying to persevere, but like, the world finds a way. So everything, to fuck everything up. So I don't know, because it's funny, because it's like when this started, I was just kind of like, I don't want to do anything until we have a vaccine or something, but then like, and people are like, no, we're going to work. And you're like, all right, let's see how this goes. And so now I'm just chilling. Now the super positive part for me has been, I've been able to write a lot more. I stayed writing. I've come from writing. I've been playwriting. It's just, it stops whenever I start to do the acting thing, and I get caught up in all of that. And so the one positive.
What's inspiring you right now? Like in general, what inspires you, and what's inspiring you now?
Yeah, I think, for me, the most interesting stories that still aren't told are just, I love magical realism, and I love underdog stories, right? So I love the guy who perpetually gets beat down and does the right thing anyway, and then every couple times does the wrong thing. So that's always inspiring. And then also seeing inside of his mind, and inside of it is a dream of when he was a child and he had superpowers and was scared and had a little friend who came alive and was made out of matchsticks. Like that's what's interesting to me as a creator, and I think it's probably behind everything I do.
Yeah, what's going on with ammo during this time? I know you all are a very tight crew.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the other obstacles when we started with the pandemic, is figuring out how to put on theater when you're not allowed to be in the same space at the same time. So one of the things was we formed a network with about 40 other smaller theaters, local theaters, and we had put on our first virtual show where we had a number of different plays, but we also had people who introduced it and people who talked afterwards. So that part of it was live. And we've been collaborating with a couple theaters. We did Pass the Mic Festival. We worked with Play Per View. and then got money for Color of Change, and for Kendrick Sampson's company to all these sort of social change programs that are happening. And then for the next year, we've got the two biggest things that we're going to do consistently are something from Carolyn Rattray called the Therapy Hour. It's less than an hour. It's got a cast of about 8 right now, but she changes the cast. We're looking at doing it monthly, if not every 2 months. It's a little comedy, it's a little drama. And, it's written, directed, and acted with Carolyn Rattray as the psychiatrist. She's been a professor. She's been writing and directing for years. I've known her over 20 years. She can do it all. So it feels perfect to be able to repeat virtually over the next year. And then the other thing we have is a virtual show called La Bohème or Halem, something very French and pretentious. And we're going to make it a Zoom. It's a Zoom thing, but we're having breakout rooms. It's being written, directed by Ahmed Best, who we know as Jar Jar Binks, and who is now a Jedi on his show, Jedi Temple Knights. We also have Claudia Dumit co-writing it, who people know as my girlfriend from, or my wife from Timeless. And a lovely musician whose name I'm blanking on. I'm sure it's Robert or John. Jason Curry. He's done our music for past shows. He's done all our stuff. We love him. He's amazing. So that's going to be another show that's interactive, that's improvised, slightly written. And those are going to be our main shows. And we have a couple other shows that we're going to do. We're going to wait and see how it plays out. It's going awesome.
Oh my gosh, cheers to that.
Yeah.
I do have to say I was really grateful. I did a thing for playbill.com. We did a couple of readings of Wendy Wasserstein plays, and I just thought, bravo, like they pivoted on a dime. You know what I mean? The theater community. I have to say, always I look to my people in that department to just keep active, shall we say.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I think, the two most innovative people during this time is theater people and porn people. We're the cutting edge of innovation.
Sometimes they're on both sides.
Always.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. What about your music? What's happening or not happening, or where are you with that?
Yeah, the latest was a music video that you can see right now called E Pluribus Unum. And it was basically about all the social that was going on. It was a real departure for what I did. It went back to my slam poetry days. I had my girlfriend Amber Ruffin, who's a classic bassoonist play. I had I had my homegirl Bonnie McIntosh, who plays with like Selena Gomez and all these people. She's also in my band. She plays keys. And I had a brother of mine, DC Cassidy, who runs Capital. Awesome. And so we had this cartoon company create this cartoon, and so that's our latest one is this sort of cartoon classical poetry thing that sort of spoke to the moment and with the issues and the elections and all this sort of stuff. So that was my big outlet, other than my last hip hop album called Funhouse with
there's the tracks that I've heard are ridiculous.
Oh, thank you.
Please, I'm just fangirl over here. Now help the old gal. Verbal the rapper. Is it Verbal plus Icarus? Like, tell me.
Yes. Well, we've I feel like we're comfortable making slight changes because we're still not famous anyway. So we're so what happened is me and him were actually separate, right? Like I for a while was rapping under Verbal, and he was rapping under Icarus or Icarus V Daedalus. And so, but when we joined together, we were known as that individually, but then we changed our name to Sin City as a rap group. And that's what was on our music and Apple and blah, blah. But then, I don't know if you know this, Sin City is a very popular pseudonym for everything.
You could not be found.
So, Yeah, so after a
Yeah.
while, we were just like, we need to change the name of this. So it became Verbal and Icarus, or Verbal plus Icarus, and I think it's like slightly different depending on where you change. And then I had to change my name because it was like some big time European Asian rapper named like Verbal, who like had like one song. Yeah, who had like one song. So it was just like a lot easier to find him. I was like, God damn it. So I just had to slightly change it, you know.
You are my Verbal, one and only.
Thank you.
I don't know who this other guy is, whatever.
I appreciate it.
Please.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. So do you have visions of going back to New York?
I do. I wish I could go back.
Angelino?
I want to go back to New York all the time. It is like my number one thing. I always want to go. I'm always thinking about it. You know, my theater company before this one was in New York. You know, even when I was in LA.
Is that defunct, or is it still, is theater
that one's
still
that? Oh no! Oh, good job. Yeah, you out here. You out here. No, it's defunct, but a lot of us are still working together in one way, shape, or form, or still doing movies or writing or stuff like that. But yeah, it's down there now. It's just my mom and my brother there, and you know, sometimes I work with my cousin. We try and do. He has an unsigned hype, and we do. I work with him because he'll do these projects for basketball teams. He gets people signed, and we try and do like book bag drives and things for the neighborhood and things like that. So I come back for stuff like that sometimes, but not too much else, especially now because we're in a pandemic. So I'm mostly just at home.
Whatever. Oh my gosh.
You know.
I have so many Delta waivers. It's a joke. How many trips are canceled? I'm over it. What are you currently obsessed with right now?
I'm watching a lot of TV, right? I'm watching a lot of TV. For a while, Lovecraft Country was the big talk. For a while, we were doing a lot of that. Now we're on Titans. We're on Teen Titans, DC comic book TV show. We're also on Fargo, which just ended. That was fun.
Yeah, what do you think of this season? It was such a departure.
It's such a departure. He's getting wilder and wilder. Like Noah Wiley, he's just like Noah Hawley. He's like, look, they gave me a show again. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
It's impressive. It really is impressive.
It's amazing. He's just like, look, they gave me aliens. I don't even have to wrap up the aliens are. I don't care. It's my show. It's my show. It's great. I mean, look, it's up and down, right? There's like huge points like that point. I'm like, and then there's other points where I'm just like, oh, I love seeing like folks do craft. Like I love a Timothy Oliphant, you know what I mean? Or such and such and who's whatever's, you know what I mean? I'm a dialogue guy, you know what I mean? I like diatribes and things like that. So like, I'm fascinated by stories that do that. And also still do other things. I was talking about that about The Mandalorian, because The Mandalorian is usually written by the director. And we were talking about how you can almost tell because the dialogue it works almost the way Mad Max is. Like Mad Max, it made sense to me that it was storyboarded before there was ever any dialogue.
100%.
You know what I mean?
They storyboard it out and then they put a little dialogue in there.
Yeah, there's no like huge line in there. No. They're like their big lines are like, we gotta go.
Watch out.
Like
who would you like to work with that you haven't? Or who would you like to work with that you worked with already? Again.
I tell you, here's the most like here's like the hugest name I've worked with.
There's some huge names, Malcolm.
There's some big names. Here's the two biggest stories that come away immediately that I think of, which was I worked with. Oh, I want to get it right. I think it's not Michael Madsen. It's the other one.
What do you mean the other Michael Madsen?
It's the other guy who has issues with drugs and alcohol and is a great actor.
Let me get out my list of 140. What are you talking about? That is not helpful. You are not helping me out at all.
Christian, look up Calico Skies. It's whoever's in Calico Skies. I
Okay,
can't
let's do
remember.
it right now.
Okay.
But I've
And
got
while
a great.
he does that,
Okay, I'll tell the positive story while he looks that one up. I did a movie with Robert De Niro. And by I did a movie with Robert De Niro, I was in a movie that Robert De Niro was in.
Are you thinking Tom Sizemore?
Yes, Tom
Sizemore.
In all fairness, that was a very good description to describe Tom Sizemore.
If you're going to confuse Michael Madsen with anyone, it's going to be Tom Sizemore. Okay,
Tom Sizemore, right?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
I nailed it, and I worked with the guy.
Yeah, that was.
Okay, back to De Niro, please.
So Robert De Niro, I get to do this movie with Robert De Niro. I show up on set. And what's great is, so he's, there's like a couple of them that are there. Zach Braff is there. Tommy Lee Jones is there. It's all of them.
Oh.
And basically, yeah. It's like a
love.
Yeah. And basically the scene is it's three directors who are pitching this movie to these guys. Tommy Lee Jones is asleep. Zach Braff and De Niro, they're over there. It's almost like a producer situation, right? Mm-hmm. And so basically, I was brought in for the day. So my involvement is literally just the rehearsing of that scene and then the shooting of that scene, right? And I'm there with the writer director who's also awesome. Everyone's awesome, right? But it's a really crazy thing because I go in, I rehearse my thing, and it's slightly ad-libbed, and so
excellent.
So I kind of do it, and you're like, and it feels really weird because the scene is you just doing the scene, but it feels like you're auditioning for Robert De Niro. Yeah. And yeah, there's other people in the room, and I have the job, but literally they just bring me in to do it. So it feels like I'm auditioning for Robert De Niro, and I do it, and I do my thing, and I it goes fine. They're like, great, blah blah blah. He enjoys it, and then I ad-lib a little bit, which is I come in, I do the scene, which is crazy because I think I was just like militant black director, and I was like, I'd love a name if you could just give him a name. And but I am saying wild to Robert De Niro.
Excellent.
And some of it's good, but I also know who I am, and I know there's one or two lines that I just not great because I'm just going for it, right? I'm just like, yeah, the white man and this and that, blah blah. There's no better feeling. There is a great feeling, which is to succeed in front of your idols, but there's also no better feeling than to in any way fall on your face in front of your idols, because it's just kind of like, well, there's nothing anyone can tell me. There's nothing. I put my balls to the wall.
Also, they identify. Don't get it twisted, right?
Yeah.
There's humility in the greats.
Yeah, I think there's two great moments, and like, look, it would have been great if I didn't stutter at all. I like made one or two stutters, and it's Robert De Niro, so I'm like, right. But my two greatest fallings, and I think that went well. Like when you see it, I'm hilarious. But my two greatest fallings are stuttering in front of Robert De Niro in any way, shape, or form, and the time where because this was for the theater folks, I went to the callback for Rent, but I can't sing, and this was in high school because I worked at MCC Theater with Bernie Telsey and Bobby Lapone, and I was in meetings, and Bobby Lapone was like, he was like, hey, can you sing? And I was like, no. He was like, hey, if anyone asks if you can sing, you say yes. Can you sing? And I was like, yes. He's like, great. You're gonna audition for Rent. I went, okay. And so in my head, like, I had not been to a lot of musical auditions, but I don't know if most people know this, but like 9 out of 10 times, the whole first parts of auditioning is the singing part, right? Yes. Like a very little bit of acting. And so I don't sing. So I was like, all right, I'll just kill the acting, right? What happened was Bobby forgot to put me for the auditions. So now we're just at callbacks, of people who always wanted to be in Rent
Oh,
and
my
who
word.
beat other people to be in Rent and who sang for Rent. And so he's like,
And who
oh,
will
I
kill
forgot.
for rent.
He's like, hey, we'll just have you in the callbacks. And I went, and so I practiced for so long with my music teacher, and I fought so hard because they didn't want you to act. I went in there, I was like, so where's, they were like, no, just sing the song. And anyone who knows Rent is like, you want to create songs, write songs, you need somewhere to do it. It's what we've always dreamed about. Think twice before you poo-poo it. You'll see, boy. As well as I sound right now is 30 times better than I sounded when I was 18-year-old going to the callbacks for Rent. And I literally, it was just like, and I think I can, my timbre is like slave hymns. Like I don't sing. And so like, I sang, I fucked up the words, I fucked up the notes, and horrible. And I felt so good, probably not that day, but afterwards in general, because I was like, I fucked up in the callbacks for Rent. Y'all, like what, who cares? I went to a callback I should have never been to. I can't believe it. Let's do this. I can do anything.
I have so been where you are. I will just say, similar story involving Rizzo of Greece.
Yes.
Enough said. But basically, I'll go out on stage naked at this point. Like I don't give a flaming ooh-ah. I embarrassed myself so fully that truly there is nothing that I'm afraid of anymore since that.
You can't be afraid.
I so feel you.
You can't be afraid. You can't be afraid.
Yes. Okay, now before we wrap up, you just can't leave me hanging, or Christian hanging without wrapping up Tom Sizemore.
Tom Sizemore's.
Give us that one.
Okay, so I did this movie. I did this movie specifically so I'd have a Tom Sizemore story, right?
Yes. Hello.
And it was written, directed by Valerio Esposito.
Wow.
I think I got it doing a play with Jimmy Simpson. I think he saw us and was just like, he was like, I want you in the thing, and I was like, sure. And we drove to I don't know, it's New Mexico. I don't know. We were on some ranch somewhere. Everybody spoke Italian except for me, right? Valerio, I think, luckily spoke English and Italian. I think his producer. But everyone spoke Italian except for me. So I was just kind of chilling, but then I think they made dinner later. Like, it was like I was just like, man, this one day, I don't care, man. Like, this is cool as hell. So I go there, oh, yes, okay. I totally forgot this part. And this is the part that you won't believe I forgot. We're supposed to, Valerio, he's sending me all these things about how great things are going with him and this and that, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, awesome. Like, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't really care. I just assume things are going good until I get there. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, blah, blah. And then I'm like 30 seconds late. They're like, come down. We're all staying at, I think, literally a Motel 6, right?
Oh, yeah.
We come down. It's fine. Everyone who knows, you do projects, you do it for the experience. It's not,
you bet.
They're not all glamorous, right?
Right.
They're not all Tom Hanks. I got Tom Hanks stories though too. So we come downstairs. I'm 30 seconds late to the lobby of the Motel 6, and there's this PA there, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, what took you so long? Oh, what's this?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry." He's like, because blah blah blah. This not like. I'm like, all right, I don't know. So finally, he comes in there. Schmom Schmeismore. Let's say it's someone else, right? And he comes down there, very pretty, I guess, assistant in knee-hawk rainbow-colored socks. And she's like, yeah, I get him, and they're like kind of arguing about something. And I remember he's like, yeah, you can't do that. It's like fucking bitch, like this and that. Talking about, I guess they had an incident at like a 7-Eleven or some place, and it was like, they can't. Blah, blah, because, they thought I was messed up, you know what I mean? Because, if I'm, they test my hair. If I'm on drugs, they test test me, and this and that, blah, 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 this and that. And I'm like, he's like, yeah. And then, so I was like, I asked her to pay, and, we didn't pay. And then, like, I'm going to get in trouble. And, it's a whole thing, they'll film it and blah, blah. And then, like, the other guy, the guy from the other side, he's calling them queers or whatever, because I'm with, my friends late at night in the hotel. And he's like, blah, 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 saying, he's like calling me. He's like, he says, like, blah, 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 and this and that, blah, blah, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And this is going on. And then finally I go, hey, I'm Malcolm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
It was so much
satellite.
So much happening. I was just like,
way too much.
My name's Malcolm. That's the part of the story I almost forgot to tell you, by the way. Which was the whole day of, like, just being there. And I remember, like, we rehearsed one time, and I remember he was like, you can act. And I was like, yeah, I mean, so can you. I mean, acting. Like, and it was this whole thing. I hardly remember, but there was a thing where they were trying to get him outside, and he wouldn't come outside, and they weren't sure why. And I was like, but they wouldn't tell me. Like, this is me figuring it out. And I was like, what's happening? They were like, he won't come out. And I was like, oh, I'll just get him. Because I was like, I'm here for one day. Like, I probably would have took it if it was like, I'm here for weeks and pay and whatever.
Right.
But I was like, I'm here for one day, dude. Like, I'm not coming back here. Like, shooting the sea. And, like, just as I come out, he comes out. He's like, all right, let's do it. Like, he's ready to go. He's great in the movie. He's great in the movie.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes those reputations are so deserved. You just think there is no way this person is what these stories are, and God bless them, they are.
Delivered immediately, and I really appreciate him for that. There was, I'm thankful it was one day. It was, it was a fun day. It was a fun day. Great food. You're really in an environment with people who all openly speak a language you don't know, and also feel at home. Like, I was like, all right, it's cool. Maybe I'll learn Italian at some point. I don't know. Hopefully.
Osmosis.
Yeah. Well, I think your next thing should be to create something that I could be in with you.
And we need to create something.
Shameless plug.
We need to create something. We need to get you working with ammo. We need to get you playing. I'm working on a pilot, so all I try and do is get my friends in it. You know what I mean?
All right, just saying.
Those are the best actors.
Done. Yeah. Absolutely. We got to be like Seth Rogen and them, where we just hire our buddies.
Yes, please.
You know what I mean?
I feel you.
So,
Malcolm, thank you,
Mindy,
my friend.
Thank you, love.
I adore you. I'm such a fan. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. I love you. I think you're awesome.
This is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Malcolm Barrett.
You're okay, Christian. Christian's all right.
He's my time size more. So he's volatile at the twist of it.
I can see it. I can see it. I'm a little afraid.
This episode of Mondays with Mindy is brought to you by The Cocktail Party, Love Mary. Tired of cooking? Love fancy hors d'oeuvres, but don't have any idea how to prepare them? Look no further. The Cocktail Party, Love Mary, is here. For 15 years, New York caterer to the stars, and our pal Mary Giuliani has served her delicious, whimsical hors d'oeuvres to the best names in art, fashion, and entertainment. Now she's putting them all into adorable little boxes and sending them from her heart to your home. 6 dozen of her greatest hits delivered frozen, including the yummiest nibbles like mac and cheese cupcakes, pastrami on rye tarts, and her everything pig in a pie. Total game changer for anyone who loves pigs in a blanket. As Mary says, all you have to do is turn on the oven, pour yourself a drink, and enjoy more time with your guests. She'll do the rest. Go to marygiuliani.com or mondayswithmindy.com for more information and to order yours today.